Good. Okay, we're going to convene the meeting at this time. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's October 17th, 6:30, Thursday evening. And boy, where did the year go? Somebody tell me. I can't believe we're the ending of October already. So, but anyway, welcome to the council meeting for the Village of Royal Palm Beach. I'm going to ask everyone to stand, and I'm going to invite, we have Troop 111 with us tonight. I'm going to ask them to come up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for helping us out there. I think they're here tonight because it's something to do with earning a merit badge, or, all right? You going to sit for the whole meeting, or just going to?
Extra credit.
Well, good luck, right? Okay. This evening is one of those times when we once again get to recognize one of our employees, but in this case, it's not just any employee, it's the head of the pack, all right? We're gonna, I mean pack in a positive way, not a negative way. It's the head of the team, how about that? That better?
Better.
I'm thinking about the Boy Scouts, right? Troops, packs. Anyway, it's to recognize Ray Liggins being with the village for like the fastest 20 years I've ever seen. Talk about time going by quickly. A little bit about Ray. He started with the village on October 18th in 1999 as our village engineer. It was interesting because he started the day after. Everybody remember Hurricane Irene? The flooding events that we had? And remember the flooding we had in the village? Well, before I go on, I just want to tell you a little sidebar, because Ray won't tell you this. One of the expertise that they were looking for when David Farber, when he was hiring a new village engineer, was someone who had the expertise in implementing stormwater management solutions, right, to manage the flooding problem. We had flooding problems, really bad flooding problems in the village in those days, and this was one of the capabilities that Ray had on his resume, that he had done this previously in a previous assignment further north in Florida. And so that was one of the reasons why I think David said, Ray, you're the guy, you're going to be our new village engineer. And it was funny, he showed up, and we had the flooding event, so Farber's saying, gee, did you bring this with you? The good news is since then we have implemented a very capable stormwater management system. We've got the National Flood Insurance folks are going to give our residents a 30% to 40% discount on their flood insurance because of the system that we put in place and how we're managing that. And they had to come in and certify it and look at all the maps, and that all worked out. So it's just a little sidebar on one of the things that Ray, how he came to the village and one of the skill sets he brought. In February 2007, after Royal Palm Beach, we sold our, if you remember, we sold our water utility that year. Ray assumed some new responsibilities, and he was also promoted as the assistant village manager. So I think what David Farber and what the council was looking to have happen there was to have some succession process in place. And lo and behold, it turned out it was a good idea that we did that. In 2010, Ray became the village manager and has had the honor of leading the team of our dedicated employees at the village. And he has been seen the benefit and witnessed the benefit for 20 years of all the many projects that we've done in the village, all the many changes. But at the end of the day, seeing all of these projects result in something that was for the greater good for our citizens. And that's really what always motivated Ray in seeing those outcomes being achieved. It takes a considerable teamwork to build and run a village. It goes from maintenance workers to keep our parks and roadways looking great, to the Parks and Recreation Division with their array of programs and events for all ages, and to the Sheriff's Office with a consistent presence, to the technical staff and review committee that reviews every project, public or private, before it gets built, and to ensure that it's consistent with the vision of the village. Ray, we thank you for your part over the past 20 years, and I want another 20 from you. So let's give Ray, let's acknowledge him here. Photo op. Well, this award, a 20-year award, and it's a little unusual. It's hermetically sealed. Normally, they're not, okay? But I got up to the desk and I saw it. I was getting ready to tear it up. I said, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't. This must be radioactive or something. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We turn it around. Well, it's the logo, it's the.
Yeah, but you got it. So when they take the picture, they blow it up. You can see. Is this really him? Is this really him?
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything, Mr. Village Manager?
It has been a pleasure. I can't believe it's 20 years though. It doesn't seem like it, but I came here with a young family to raise my family with the goal of them not needing to go to different schools. I went to several different middle schools and high schools, moving around a lot, and that goal's been attained. My youngest just graduated high school this last year and is headed off to USF for college, and it's been a great 20 years. I do seeing the projects and knowing what this was like in 1999 when we got here. It was a great city when I got here, and we had a lot of goals, and there was the financial foundation was put in place. We only made that stronger, and we got to rebuild every single park we have, build Commons Park, rebuild every one of our collector roadways, and we have a few more key projects to finish in the next 10 years, and I'm looking forward to getting those done.
So we're only going to get 10 more out of you?
Well, no.
We'll find more projects.
I didn't start when I was 17.
You know what amazes me is how none of us really aged over that 20-year period.
Thank you.
You have another one?
Thank you.
She wants to.
Or another one. Okay.
You're on your own.
Yeah. And then you.
Okay, that was fun. And we're going to go into reports tonight, and since it's the third Thursday of the month, I have an update for everyone on our meeting this morning for the TPA. Interesting meeting. A lot of different things were discussed. One of the first things we did was the previous chair of the TPA, Hal Balashay, Commissioner Balashay, Palm Beach County Commissioner, last month had stepped down in that role. And the way the board rules operate is the vice chair automatically rotates and becomes the new chair, which meant we now had an opening for the vice chair. And yours truly was elected by the board to be the new vice chair. So I'm looking forward to working with them in that capacity. We had a proclamation that is a statewide mobility, it's stating that on the week of October 25th to November 1st, is considered statewide mobility week. This is important because we're just getting awareness out about the need for us to plan transportation options that provide true mobility and not just solutions for more roads for more cars. So that's a continual process we're working on. In terms of the transition update, the transition of the TPA becoming an independent agency, that's moving along fine. In fact, the latest update is that they will be moving in, staff will be moving into their new offices probably in early November. Now, when they say early November, I take that to mean before the 15th, right? I don't know, but hopefully by the 15th they'll be moved in. I announced last month, though, that the staff has in fact shifted. They're no longer employees of Palm Beach County. They are now being employed as an independent agency now, so that's moving along. A major update was we updated the TPA priority projects, and I'm glad to announce that the State Road 7 extension to North Lake Boulevard has been put back on the project list and is targeted for fiscal year 2022. As before, the City of West Palm Beach commissioners objected to this being put back on the project list. In fact, they didn't just object, they strenuously objected. Now, any of you who've seen the picture "A Few Good Men," you get what that's about. I'm quoting in quotes. He strenuously objected to this being put back on the project list, but that still doesn't make any difference. It was still voted and approved. It's back on the project list, so we'll continue to march there. We also had an update for our 2020 local initiatives. Just want to mention to Ray and his team. November 1st, there's going to be a workshop for all of the cities that want to participate in that. They strongly urge anyone who's looking to put an application in to try to make that workshop. They made some changes this year to the rating schedule, and one of the points they made was they being the TPA staff, encourage what they call bundling. In other words, if we've got multiple small projects that could qualify, we can put those projects together and I guess you make it a big, small project. I don't know, by bundling. But they, in other words, you don't have, if you've got 3 or 4 projects, you don't have to do an application for each one. By bundling, you could put just do one application. So if we're looking to participate in that, which I think we are, we want to try to see if we can be involved in that workshop on November 1st that they're going to be having. We also did a draft update, and I underlined the word draft, of our 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan, better known as the LRTP, which gives us a 25-year outlook for federal and state funding and what our requirements are. Now, state law and federal law require the TPA to update this 25 outlook plan every 5 years. In fact, they used it in their language, they used the term to do a major update. So if there's no real changes to it, we have to review it, but if you want to make some major changes, you do that once every 5 years. An interesting conversation ensued today because apparently the county had come to the TPA with a very long list of projects they wanted to do. And that list was really vetted today by all members on the board of the TPA. And it was interesting because there was a lot of pushback from many of the cities on many of the projects that they saw on this list that they weren't happy to see. And they made their concerns known. And they were unhappy about projects that they thought should be on the list that the county didn't include. So we went around on that. One of the projects specifically that affected Royal Palm Beach was a project to expand to 6 lanes on Okeechobee Boulevard from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to Crestwood. All right, so they want to expand that. I think right now it's 4 lanes, and they want to make that 6 lanes. So anyone living along that corridor there, I think, might have a concern about that. I expressed that the village of Royal Palm Beach was concerned about that project, and at least for now, we'd like to see it removed from the list, at least until we have a chance in the future to evaluate that. But it's consistent with our policy has been in the past. I will ask members on the council to give some thought to this, and perhaps we can make this, have a separate workshop discussion about it, or make an agenda item, just so that we can update, make sure we're all on the same page on what our strategy is in terms of the expansion of Okeechobee Boulevard. One of the issues that we have looked at about 5 or 6 years ago was that recognizing Okeechobee Boulevard is a county road. And they would love to expand the road that runs from the west end of Royal Palm Beach going into Waxahachie Groves all the way out to Seminole Pratt. Now, right now, that's a two road. And one of the actions that Waxahachie Groves took in response to that, because they don't want to see that expansion happen, and neither do we, because that's only going to invite more traffic up and down that road, all right? We want the traffic to go to the roads where they're already expanded. They're going to expand North Lake like you wouldn't believe. You already see what they're doing with State Road 80 to the south. We don't want that traffic, flowing through the middle of our village. So that was the basis, the premise of the strategy that we had talked about before. I think, we've got new members on council. It'd be good for us to have a conversation about that and make sure we're all aligned in terms of that approach and those thoughts. So we'll look at that, doing that at some point. And I think that was, in terms of the major issues, major points of discussion, that was it. Local initiatives, we got that. And Safe Street Summit, it's going to be on February 6th and 7th, 2020. It's going to be in Fort Lauderdale, so it's a little closer to us this time. So I just want to let you all know if you're all interested in putting that on your calendars and thinking about making that summit. We went last year, it was interesting, so we'll see. So with that, I think we start with you, Selena. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm going to give a quick update on our Recreation Advisory Board meeting that we had. The village engineer, thank you very much, Chris Marsh, came and gave an update on the sales surtax. So the Rec Advisory Board is the oversight committee for that. He talked about the access improvements to Commons Park that they're working on. They're building a new village hall, resurfacing pathways and a kayak launch in Todd Robner Park, having a all-access playscape at Commons Park, canal dredging, and renovations and expansion to the rec center. So this would be a new gym, offices, restrooms, kitchen, and that's going to be a separate wing then for our senior program. So it's really nice to see how they're expanding in that. Mr. Michael Lightcheck gave us an update on that they're relaunching the early learning program at the rec center. So that was the one that we had, the teacher came in to talk about that. So we're making the renovations to that so that she can open up hopefully by the end of the year. And registration's open for adult and youth basketball leagues. The Green Market, it's great, they put this on for us today. So the Green Market is open Saturdays now from 9 to 1 at Village Hall. And then the Rockin' Festival is October 25th and 26th at Commons Park, and that's another free event that we put on for the community. Also, Meals on Wheels is now serving Royal Palm Beach residents, and they deliver freshly made meals 5 days a week to your home. And they're looking for volunteers and participants, so if you're interested either in volunteering or being part of the program or signing up for it. And they also offer specials for our veterans. So that's another thing they offer. So you can go to www.mowpb.org for more information. Thanks.
The only report I have is to commend the sheriff's office. Maybe, I think it was last Friday, they had another successful night out against crime, and it's great to bring the family and the kids out and see all the different resources they have. And Fire Rescue had some of their stuff there too, activities for the kids, and they even had the horses. And it was just a great event, and I appreciate them doing it and getting out the word that, you know, we're not going to stand for that in our community. So,
good work.
Thank you.
Good evening. The October Education Advisory Board meeting actually focused on Cypress Trail Elementary School and also the subject of school security and safety. And just a quick review of the Cypress Trails is kind of an unusual school. It's a Title I elementary school, and actually it's one of two in the entire district that are A-rated. So we're really fortunate to have them here. The principal has been there for 2 years now, and he gets to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Cypress Trails Elementary, so it's been in the community for quite a while. They have some really great programs. They've got a STEM program over there that they keep expanding and adding to as the years go on. And this year they're actually going to integrate their partnership with Lion Country Safari with their STEM program, which will be a really interesting kind of an activity. So he reported on that. He talked also about the penny sales tax, and they've done a lot of work over there. They've replaced flooring. They've got new lighting, new plumbing, new furniture, kind of a new school. So the penny sales tax was intended to do this very thing, and that's exactly what it's doing over at Cypress Trails. It's insofar as school security and safety is concerned, we had the school district chief of police, Frank Kitzero, come in and talk to us about some of the requirements that came down last year from the state level in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. And of course, one of the requirements was to make sure we have at least one police officer on every school campus, which we do here. And in fact, we have more than one on most of our school campuses. But that requires the school district to hire 130 new police officers. So they're involved in doing that, but they're also involved in increasing the effectiveness of their responsiveness and preparation for these extreme situations that are of concern to us today. They do what the military does a lot of, and that is tabletop exercises to enhance their coordination and communications capabilities so that everybody that needs to be involved gets involved and they get used to handling information in real time and effectively responding to it. So he talked a good bit about that. He also talked about the importance of the relationship between school police and the students. And he said, you know, one of the things that they try very hard to do is keep them informed without scaring them unnecessarily. And so you can imagine that's a fairly delicate balance. They also work with some of the new mental health workers that have been brought onto the campuses as well. And the combination of those things hopefully will allow for intervention in a timely fashion to avoid crises and bad situations that we've seen in other places. Of course, the whole key here is to allow the kids to feel safe, be safe, so they can focus on learning in their schools. Got a piece of breaking news with regard to education. You know, I think at the last council meeting I talked about Royal Palm Beach High School and the list of achievements that they've accomplished in the last couple of years. A 92.9% graduation rate, which exceeds the state and county's goal. The fact that they achieved a B letter rating, and the fact that at the same time they actually achieved the rating as the happiest high school in Palm Beach County. Now, if you think about those two, they can be kind of pulling away at each other, but actually they were able to achieve that. They also have the Palm Beach County Teacher of the Year, and so to add to that list, I was told by Valerie Haynes, who's our new Central Region Regional Superintendent, that Principal Jesus Armas has just been named Principal of the Year for the Central Region. And so he's 1 out of 53 principals.
Wow.
And so that's quite an achievement.
Yeah.
That puts him in a position now where he's going to compete at the district level with 3 other principals. And the winner coming out of there will go to state level. And last year we actually had a principal from Palm Beach County go all the way up to state level. And so if you know Dr. Armas, you'll probably be like most of us. We expect that he's going to do really well in these competitions. So Royal Palm Beach High School is doing good things.
Good. That's good. Excellent. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to forego my report tonight, but just apologize in advance. I have a hard stop at 7:40 to catch a flight. So just want you to let you know. In case you see me leave, it's because of that.
We understand.
Not anything we said.
No.
Right.
The only thing I have is Veterans Day will be at our cultural center this year, where ceremony begins at 9 a.m. and there'll be a breakfast served at 8 a.m. before that, and that will be on, the date's not on here, but it's, the November 11th. So, right, it's always November 11th. I was looking to read it and it wasn't. So, anyway, so that's, that is a different event than what we normally do. We normally have it at Veterans Park. This will be at the Cultural Center. It's something that we're doing with the American Legion. They wanted to do this breakfast, and it should be really good. So everybody's welcome.
Yeah, everybody's welcome, just like before.
Yes.
Just show up with an appetite now. So,
Yep.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Steve.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly to remind the council, again, October 30th is an opportunity to get your 4 hours of ethics training in at the town of Lantana. And I'll be participating in that on the topic of public records, so I'll look forward to maybe seeing some of you there. And I'll leave it at that.
I think we signed up for that, right?
Yeah.
I think
We'll be
you
there
will.
in force.
We always have 100% attendance every year to get our 4 hours and stuff. Good. Okay, that concludes in our reports. Before I move on to accept petitions, Diane, please let the record show that all members of council are present and that Councilwoman Radowski will have to depart early. But, okay, so I won't have to take attendance again, that you were here. Good. At this time, if anyone has a petition they'd like to present to the council, now would be the time. No petitions? Okay, I'm closing the floor to petitions. I have some comment cards for statements from the public on non-agenda items. So I'm going to ask them to come up now, starting with Mr. Anthony Swan.
Okay. Anthony Swan, 11949 Park Central. I was here last month, and a neighbor and I and my wife brought up the issue about the entrance for the retirement home. I don't know if you guys had a chance to maybe check it out, or if there's something we can do, or pretty much if there's nothing we can do about that. And then, I don't know.
You kind of want to get an update on
Yeah, and then the other thing was the drainage for
Drainage
the
issue?
property, because I saw there were surveyors. I did bump into them
Yeah.
and talk to them for a while. And as of 2 days ago, KHOVE has to have knowledge that there is some kind of problem, because they did overnight me a letter.
You're saying
Yeah.
they acknowledged that there was a problem?
They have to have knowledge, because last night they overnight me a letter. I got it yesterday stating that I shouldn't come to this public record, to the city council meeting, that they will sue me and hold me responsible for the drainage fix.
Wait a minute.
Because they thought the arbitration
They said you
was,
should not come to this meeting?
yeah,
Why was that?
because they assumed the arbitration was confidential. Only the meeting that was in my home was confidential, and the results of the arbitration is not confidential. So they UPS that overnighted to me yesterday saying I shouldn't show up today to this.
You want to comment on that, Ray?
Oh, I don't know anything about that, but I know that the village engineer did meet with their consultants and Caravani and went over the drainage, and they are working on a fix and a change to the drainage. Chris is still waiting that information, but they did agree to it. The building official and the village engineer did meet with representatives from Caravani last Thursday, and they did get a comfort level from them that they are going to be working on the issues, and they're going to resolve them.
So they've acknowledged that there is a problem there.
Yes, they acknowledge that there is a drainage problem, and they are.
Agreed to take corrective action.
That is correct.
Have we gotten a time frame from them?
I don't, Chris, do we have any time frames?
Hi, Chris. Okay.
Chris has met with them on several occasions, and I know they met in the field, and I know they met just last Thursday. Do they have provide any time commitments of?
They did actually submit plans to me 2 days ago, so I need to review those plans. I did a cursory review. They look pretty good. So as soon as those get approved, they seem serious about moving forward with getting the plans. They're looking to complete the overall subdivision, and they won't be able to get their final release until this issue is resolved. So we do have a commitment for them to move forward with these quickly. So.
I guess you're going to be able to kind of stay on top of this to make sure that they're going to do what they said they're going to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. That's where we are with this.
Okay.
And the point I wanted, as you can see, I wanted to make the point that, one, that they have acknowledged there's an issue. And they
Okay.
have acknowledged they have ownership for the issue and have to take corrective actions to fix it. As you see, what we're trying to do is, okay, let's triangulate now. How long is this going to take? When is it going to get done? So that's where we are with this right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
In terms of this thing about them telling you can't come here, I don't know anything about it.
I have the letter with me if you guys want to see it.
You were
But,
planning on coming to see us tonight?
huh?
How did they even know you were going to be here tonight?
Because they heard of the meeting last month somehow, and then there was a town care. I don't know how to say it.
Crier.
It was in the paper? Oh,
Yeah. and it
Town
was in the
crier
paper.
article.
So they
Okay.
read the same papers, huh? Okay,
I guess.
okay. All right, so hopefully this thing gets resolved
Okay.
as soon as possible,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Anthony.
Thank you.
Everybody knows our village engineer, Chris Marsh? For the record, okay. Another non-agenda item, Mr. Brian Tuttle.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Tuttle, 961 Hillsborough Mile, Hillsborough Beach, Florida. Last month when I came, I expressed some concerns about the scheduling and getting some of the projects moving along in the Tuttle Royale project, and I'm here with what I consider to be very good news. We did have a meeting that Ray set up for us, and I thank him for that. And at that meeting, Chris Marsh did a very, very good job. He presented a complete, very detailed schedule of what we needed to do to get all the roads going. And given the amount of work we got to do, it's actually more complicated than the bridge, given we're putting a light in and we're putting this stuff in with Lowe's, and given what we're doing with El Dorado Furniture and realigning State Road 41. But he did do a very, very good job. I want to let you know that he did do a good job. I was pleased with it. And at the meeting was obviously myself, Florida Crystals Group, the Charter School Group, and Toll Brothers was also apprised of the situation. I just want to let you know that we have a schedule. We're agreed to it. I thought it was fair and reasonable, and hopefully, God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll be able to break ground probably in January.
Yeah, I saw the schedule. The village manager did review that with all of us, actually. I'm glad that I think that's a major step forward, that we've got the roadmap to success. I call it the roadmap to success, has been documented, okay? And
No pun intended.
No, well, no, really. But the key here is, I think, we all know there are things that happen that we can't just, control. You might have, contractors working for you that don't work in the time frame they need to get it done. But notwithstanding those kind of things that help delay projects, if we can really be committed to working and managing to that timeline, that will get us to everybody to where we need to go. Now,
The second bit
I
of
interrupt you. Go ahead.
The second bit of good news is the charter school, as we know, is very committed to this site and wants to build this charter school. And that's good news. And let me just segue for a minute, is that in Royal Palm Beach, when you build a charter school, you have to have an underlying zoning of commercial. It's not normally that way in a lot of other municipalities and counties. Charter schools can go in a lot of different areas, but in Royal Palm Beach, their rezoning for them is commercial. So the good news is that everything's moving forward. The challenging part is because it's zoned commercial, the code in Royal Palm Beach assumes most commercial is on a major highway already, right? So your commercial, you already have your major highway, so you're not allowed to build commercial, as I interpret the code, until the major roads are done. You can't get your building permit until the roads are done. So for the charter school, which is more of a public benefit, that kind of creates a problem. Under the current code situation, the charter school won't be able to get a building permit and begin construction for almost 2 years. And so that presents a problem for the charter schools. And more importantly, it presents a problem for all the residents moving into the new community and for Royal Palm Beach. As you know, Palm Beach, Royal Palm High is over capacity, the middle school is close to over capacity, and the elementary schools are all close to over capacity. So this charter school, which is a public benefit, can't start for 2 years. Now, the other problem is you got residents moving in, so they're going to move in, they're going to have to put their kids in another school. And then when the charter school opens, they're going to have to move them out of that school and move them back to the school that's across the street from their home. So what we would propose is a very, very, very minor code modification that would be a laser point to a PCD, which would say that for charter schools or schools, you can get a building permit the same time you can as the residential units. So that in theory, when the residential units are done, the charter school is done. So I just want to talk for a second on the public benefit. The public benefit of the charter school, yes, we benefit from the charter school because it's going to bring residents into the community, it's a selling factor, and it's trips for the commercial center. But it's also a benefit to the homeowners and all the people of Royal Palm Beach. So there's two ways to get a code change. One is we can initiate it and go through the TCR process. And the other way is the commission can ask the city engineer through motion to investigate a code change that would be very, very, very finely tuned just to a charter school and a PCM, with the goal being to allow the charter school to break ground the same time the residential units do, so that in theory it can open when the residential units are ready for the homeowners.
All right.
So the reason I'm here is to ask one of my brave commissioners to make a motion for that.
We're not a commission, but that's okay. We won't quibble on minute issues like that.
Brave council members. So that is my why I'm here tonight.
Something you said, maybe my understanding of the timeline is not correct, and where you can correct us on this. Why are you saying it's going to take 2 years to break ground for the school? I thought we were looking at them being able to break ground with a 10-month window to get it built, and it's supposed to take 6 months to build. Is that correct?
Well, there is some good news as a follow-up to our meeting that we had the other day as it relates to the charter school. One, We do have schools in residential districts. That's not a mandate. That is not what's controlling this. It's the fact that it's a non-residential use versus a residential use. A school is a non-residential use. So it's more the use of the building as compared to a house or an apartment you sleep in that does not allow us to give a building permit out while the infrastructure is being constructed. The good news is the schedule that we worked out with Brian has the infrastructure being completed by November 2020. The opening for the school is scheduled for August of 2021.
Right.
So they explained to us that it takes about 5 months to build the first phase of the school. That gives them 10 months to get the school built and constructed in accordance with their schedule and be open in time for the kids to get there. So I don't think this is the time to talk about changing our rules. I think there's plenty of time in the future if there becomes a need to deal with it at that time. I'm not sure about the 100% capacity. The last time I looked at our school capacities of all three of our elementary and our middle school, they're closer to 60% than they are 100. So I'm not sure about the 100% number. I haven't looked within the last 6 months, but I would be very surprised if it's that high. So according to his schedule, with an opening of August 2021, he has 5 extra months to build a school. So I don't think it's a discussion we need to have now about changing our code.
Okay.
Can I respond to that?
Hold on a second. Can you give us
so-
insight on the capacity issue?
Yeah, I haven't seen the numbers this year, but last year our elementary schools were between 90 and 100%. They were right in that range. Our middle school actually was in the range of 60%. So that was a consideration for other reasons. And then our high school usually fluctuates between 100 and 104% of capacity. You do need to understand what that really means. It's generally talking about under ideal conditions with the size of the cafeteria they have, the size of the gym they have, the size of the common facilities, which are the things that really drive that. Ideally, with maybe 1 or 2 lunches, at 100%, you could take care of everybody. Okay, if you are slightly over that, you might have to add another lunch period. So there are all kinds of those techniques to adjust, accommodate. In fact, I sat on the ABC, the Advisory Boundary Committee, for 2 years. And until a school gets to 120 or 140%, the school board, for good and valid reasons, don't even consider adjusting boundaries or making changes to that school, because there are many ways that you can make changes within through scheduling and other adjustments to accommodate it. So.
And I respect that. And with respect to Ray's point, yeah, you have to, we deal in certainties. We have a charter school company that we know that devil. We have a bird in the hand and he's ready to go. If he doesn't know, if he can't get his permit till, as Ray would say, in an absolute best case, November or December of next year, number one, he's not going to close until he knows that certainty. And by us giving him certainty as to when he can get his permit, then we can get him to close, which means we get him to committed. Now, if the schedule gets delayed, we have more problems with Lowe's, we have problems with El Dorado, whatever, and that schedule gets delayed 3 or 4 months, which could easily happen. He could miss that next school year. So what I'm trying to bring is certainty to a process that doesn't have to wait for a road to be built, and give certainty to a process that allows him to say, I can get my permit. I may not be able to open, but I can get my permit and I can close, and that gets him pregnant and in the deal. And right now, we don't have that.
That gets them what?
It's a technical term.
I don't know, it's a technical term. Oh, okay.
So, and again, I'm not here to live or die on this.
Okay.
But it is a benefit to the village of Royal Palm, and I think we all agree that we would want the school to open when the residential units open.
I understand the certainty to the sale, but that puts you in a position where if all the uncertainties he talked about that he's responsible for getting done don't get done, you will have a completed school out there without being able to be occupied. And that will be a very, very bad situation for this council to be in. And I would do everything to keep you out of that situation. His solution is, I'll give you a bond, you can tear the school down. That's not a realistic solution. So the only real solution would be to waive the requirement for the school to have access out to State Road 7 and allow it to go out the bridge on State Road 80. And that today is not the planned solution. It wasn't the proposed program that was brought to us in the first land use change of this area.
Right.
It is not what we agreed to with FDOT, and I do not want to put the council in that position.
All right, Richard wanted to say something. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, my 2 cents or comment were it's definitely something that the village wants and would like, but I don't see how this resolves uncertainty in any way whatsoever. The gentleman who came in today, he was talking about Cypress Key. That's right next to where I live. That was supposed to be built about 15 years ago. And I can't see why the village would go down a path where they're going to say, okay, we're going to do something without the infrastructure and everything being in place, and then something happens, hurricanes, floods, whatever it could be. And what the village manager was talking about, I mean, it doesn't create any certainty whatsoever for the village, in my opinion. So I don't know, and I notice at least the language you have here too, public or charter school. I don't know why private schools are omitted, but I wouldn't want to treat them any differently. So those are my thoughts, but I don't think what you have here is going to, create a better situation for the village in any way whatsoever. It's going to put the village in a situation where what I've lived next to for over a decade, which is you're going to have something that's not built, and you're going to have to wait and go through whatever happened and the resolution of the markets, the bubble bursting, whatever could happen. We're taking the risk on that, and that it doesn't make sense to me to change our rules to take the risk on such an endeavor.
Okay. Jeff?
I just want to add that I've had a look at, and I think we all have had a look at the schedule, which has been developed in great detail and is based upon a critical path kind of a consideration. And the reason you do that on complex projects is so that you understand quickly when you are in a situation where you're going to have to do something dramatically different. You get a heads up really early. And so staying with that very well developed, as I looked at it anyway, in great detail, I'd even call it an inch-stone schedule. It takes you down below a milestone, can provide some certainty that you might not otherwise have had. And staying with that until and unless you reach a point where obviously there is a problem, and that's where the critical path comes into play. So, I mean, I think you got a plan that you can actually stay with and
All right, well, again, I respect everyone's opinion, and again, I'm not going to die on my sword on this issue, but the only...
Just hold a minute. I want the other members of the council.
sorry.
That's okay. No, that's all right. Go ahead, Selena.
I was actually
I want
just
to give everybody a chance to...
Yeah, just real quick is, for what the village manager just said, though, is that we're not at this point, and when we come to this bridge, then we'll consider crossing it. But if we follow everything that we're supposed to do, then everything should go okay. Plus, we have that extra few months built into the timeline, the extra 4 months for any uncertainty. Okay, thanks.
I would articulate it a little differently, what I heard the village manager say.
Oh, God.
This is an option.
Right.
But this is like, to use a military reference, this is almost like going nuclear right away when we can use conventional weapons. And if we get to a point where we have to go nuclear.
When we have to cross that bridge, then we'll look at it.
Then we could. It kind of, that's, because this, making changes to the rules, to our ordinances, it's a very significant thing. And as Richard pointed out, what looks like a very simple kind of thing, it's not that simple, believe me. There's other factors that have to come into play that have to be looked at. So I think we got a pretty good read that this is something that we hear you, and believe me, you're preaching to the choir in terms of the public benefit. There's no question about that. It's absolutely imperative that this school gets put in this development. It's very important to the village as a whole, not just the people who are going to be, residing in that complex there, but as a whole, it's very important to the village. So clearly, we all agree how important this is.
And again,
So,
I respect
yeah, go
your
ahead.
decision, but I'm going to leave you on 2 points, and I think you overlooked them, and I'll say them one more time. Nobody's going to close on a school land until they know they can get their permit. which means now that the charter school theoretically won't have to close till the end of next year. And we don't know if he'll be around then.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned
Let me
that.
finish.
All right, go ahead.
Can I finish one other point?
Yeah.
With respect to the school capacity, the school board feels the schools are over capacity because they're making all the residential units make school impact fee payments because there is no charter school with a building permit being issued. So the reason I'm asking you to just investigate this is a preliminary step to understand what arsenal you have in your toolbox to allow this to happen. So again, I'm not going to fall on my sword on this one.
Please don't. I don't want you to fall on your sword. You have to be around to get the project done, right?
So,
But
I'll leave it
okay,
at that.
The school district issue you brought up, that's beyond us. We've really got nothing to do with that. In terms of, you've got a nervous partner here, in terms of the people who are going to do the school, tell them come talk to us if they're nervous, all right? And we'll help them understand the bigger picture and what the path is and how they fit into that, to give them a better comfort level. Now, I also will say this, I'm sure this is not their first rodeo, all right? They've done this stuff before.
And they're
so-
going to be making a presentation in about a month and a half, which I will be here for, that it's in violation of you in state law for you not to issue their permit. And they're gonna do that, and I didn't want to see that showdown.
Before they show up to make a presentation, have them come and meet with us.
Well, they're gonna, I understand they're sending a memo
Right,
to
but
this.
we should sit down and talk through those issues before we try
All right.
to, do a grandstanding at council.
I understand, and that's
If you
why.
can pass that on, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right.
I think, Richard, you like with us?
Well, I just wanted to ask the village manager if he notices, has there ever been, in Royal Palm Beach, have we ever done something like this? As far as, it's not a home, so any other non-home building without the infrastructure in place
I don't
had
know.
something like this.
I don't know.
That would be something I'd want to know too.
I know probably 10, 12 years ago, we had Cypress Key pushed really hard to get building permits before their infrastructure was done, and we
look
said
what
no,
happened.
and we said no to them,
What did you just say, right?
Living it.
and that was a fortunate decision.
Okay.
All right. Well, I've
Thanks, Brian.
explained the
Appreciate it.
situation,
Okay,
and thank you
well-
for your time.
We'll work through these things. We'll get these things done one way or the other. Okay. I have no other comment cards on items not on the agenda, but if anyone here would like to make a comment on a non-agenda item, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment to non-agenda items. I also have no comment cards on items on the consent agenda, but if anyone here would like to comment on a consent agenda item, now would be the time. All right, seeing none, I'm closing public comment then to consent agenda items, and with that, if you could give us the consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I will. Number one, approval of the minutes of the final budget, start again. Number one, approval of the minutes of the final
Hold it.
public
Take
budget
two.
hearing of September 19, 2019, and council regular meeting of September 19, 2019. Two, approval of a special event permit for H.L. Johnson Elementary PTO Incorporated to hold a trunk or treat event located at 1000 Crestwood Boulevard on October 17, 2019, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. 3, approval of a seasonal vendor permit for Our Lady Queen of Apostles Catholic Church to hold their annual pumpkin patch fundraiser at 100 Crestwood Boulevard on October 12, 2019 through October 31, 2019. 4, approval of a special event permit for Our Lady Queen of the Apostles Catholic Church to hold its Christmas festival and village at 100 Crestwood Boulevard on December 6th, December 7th, December 8th, December 13th, December 14th, and December 15th, 2019. 5, approval of a seasonal vendor permit application by Happy Holidays Sencon Incorporated to sell Christmas trees at 10600 Okeechobee Boulevard from November 25th, 2019 through December 24th, 2019, between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. 6, approval of a special event permit for the Village of Royal Palm Beach to hold Rock and Fall Fest on October 25th and October 26th, 2019 at Royal Palm Beach Commons. 7, approval and authorization for the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement between the Village of Royal Palm Beach and the School Board of Palm Beach County for the mutual use of recreational facilities. 8, authorization to make payment to Chabad Jewish Center in the amount of $5,000 for the village's past use of its parking facility during community events held in Veterans Park. This expenditure will come from account number 001-7220-572-4499. 9, adoption of resolution number 1927, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, specifically repealing resolutions number 1022 and number 1120, along with the associated Exhibit A, and for providing for the adoption of a newly revised primary sports provider policies and procedures, which will supersede and replace the previous policies and procedures, providing that such policies and procedures will be made applicable to various sports providers that are recognized by the Village of Royal Palm Beach in the future for specific sports, providing an effective date and for other purposes. 10, adoption of resolution number 1928, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach recognizing Youth Baseball Association of Royal Palm Beach Incorporated as the primary provider of youth baseball and youth softball in the Village of Royal Palm Beach. 11, adoption of resolution number 1929, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, recognizing Royal Palm Beach Stars Incorporated as the primary provider of youth travel basketball in the Village of Royal Palm Beach, providing for periodic updates and an annual review of the program by the Village Recreation Advisory Board, providing an effective date and for other purposes. 12, approval and authorization to purchase 3 vehicles from Duval Ford in an amount not to exceed $130,206.
I like the first number.
Pardon me? By piggybacking the Florida Association of Counties, contract FSA 19 VEL 27.0 chassis, FSA 19 VEL 17.0. And 13, approval and authorization to purchase 2019 Ford F450 chassis 4x2 with Alltech 30 feet articulating aerial device from Alltech Industries Incorporated, a bucket truck, in an amount not to exceed $87,659. This purchase is through Sourcewell contract number 012418 ALT.
Okay. And there are no comments from members on council with any of the items on the consent agenda? Do you have a comment? Oh, and I'll look for a motion.
Go.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that the consent agenda was approved 5-0. All right, the first item on our regular agenda, agenda item R1, is a public hearing to consider a variance application number 19-052, an application by Michael Fioli, I hope I pronounced that right, in variance order VC 19-09. The applicant is requesting variances from section 26-79, sub 4, sub D, to allow for a reduced size rear setback for 3 shade structures in lieu of the required 7.5-foot side setback and a 15-foot rear setback as required by code for a property located on 2493 Westmont Lane. Bradford, you're on.
Great, thank you, Mayor. As you stated, the applicant, Michael Fioli, is requesting 3 variances from section 2679 setbacks for 3 existing permanent awning structures to allow for a reduced side setback of 11 inches, where village code requires 7.5 feet, and reduced rear setback of 11 inches, where the village code requires 15 feet for the southeastern awning structure. A reduced side setback of 11 feet, where village code requires 7.5 feet, and a reduced rear setback of 11 inches for the southwest awning structure, and a reduced side setback of 11 inches. The applicant asserts that the reduced setback is necessary because of the layout of all of the existing structures on the property. In particular, the applicant states that the layout of the existing pool would not allow for the proposed structures to comply with the required setbacks. The applicant contends that the medication that their son is taking causes sun sensitivity and that the shade structures are necessary to allow him to enjoy the backyard and pool area. The applicant further asserts that this is the minimum variance that will allow for reasonable use of the property and prevent Village Code from denying the applicant any amenity commonly enjoyed by other property owners. Village Code Section 2632 F6 allows Village Council to grant variances to code when special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building, do not result from the actions of the applicant, will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. Little interpretation of the provisions of this division would deprive the applicant rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this division, and would not be injurious to the area involved or detrimental to public welfare. Here's a slide showing the locations of these awnings. Village staff is not in support of these variances. Staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist. The condition is the result from actions of the applicant, and the variance will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this application on September 24, 2009, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And with that being said, I'll kind of go through some of the slides.
Yeah, you
I'm
said,
sorry.
you said the P&Z approved it?
Yes, sir.
5-0?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know what their basis was for their approval?
I don't think.
You'll get a chance to speak. Hold on. Okay.
So this is
hold
this
that
is
question
a,
when you get to speak. Okay.
This is a picture of the awning from the street here, as you can see.
So this is in place already.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Here is the framing of the structures. And again, here's an illustration. Well, and that's the end of my presentation, Mayor. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
If I did watch part of that planning and zoning meeting, and I think one of, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the basis, or to me would seem the basis, was the family went, and I guess they went to their homeowners association, and everything in the homeowners association said everything was fine, they could do it, and they just assumed that because it was okay with the homeowners association, which usually in most cases have a much higher standard than what the village is, that wasn't the situation here. Am I right about that? That was, okay.
Come on up. Yeah.
We submitted an application.
Because we would never be right.
My name is Michael Fioli, 2493 Westmont Lane, Royal Palm Beach, Florida, and my wife Cindy.
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had submitted an application to the association. They sent out an inspector. They approved it. We had them built because we have a child with special needs, and the situation is there's no sun. I mean, there's constant sunlight in the yard, and so we had them built, and we spent a lot of money. And then after 5 months, we found a door knocker saying that it was no good and it had to be removed. And we notified all our neighbors. We sent out 60 letters within a 300-foot radius, and all our surrounding neighbors, we had wrote letters, and they, commented on that it didn't disturb them, and now we're faced with a problem because we need these canopies desperately to get out.
Did you go back to the HOA and ask them, how could you guys tell us this
I
is
did.
okay, but the city says it's not?
I did, and they were like, well, we approved it at our level. And so I was like, and they sent an inspector out, and I'm like, okay, you inspected it, you saw it, we built it, and now we have a problem.
Nothing about it afterwards for 6 or 7 months.
And, we presented everything to the committee here. This has been going on for a couple of months, and they voted us in 5-0, that we could have them.
You mentioned you had a child with a special needs situation?
Yes, we have 6 children. One of our children has special, just mental and physical problems, and has medical issues, medications, Ritalins, and things like that. Can't be out in the sunlight at all. And our backyard is a sundial.
Okay. Bradford, do you know if the P&Z approved this on any special conditions, or did they approve it as a variance for the property?
There was no, sir. There was no special conditions as part of their approval.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is that
you have a special needs situation with your child. If this is something that can be documented and confirmed from physicians.
It was. We have that too in the packet.
We have that documentation on file already? Do you know about that?
The only thing that I saw in there was their assertion that their child had special needs. I didn't see anything in the file that spoke to the special needs.
We have a copy of it here.
Okay, so you have that, all right.
Yes.
I just want to put that out there before I open this up for comments from members on council. But before I do that, I have no comment cards submitted to us for agenda item R1. But if anyone from the public would like to comment on this agenda item, now would be the time. This has been a good time to have all your neighbors here to say, hey, we think this is great. That's okay. Yeah, I'm joking, don't worry. But, okay, so we have no one here who wants to make comments on this from the public, so I'm closing public comment to agenda item R1, opening up for further discussion from members on council. Okay.
I just wanted real quick, and that's why I asked Bradford to put this photo back up there. So the structure goes to the fence line, is that correct?
It's
7 inches away from.
7 inches away from the property
The white
line.
fence that we see, okay, and that is a homeowner's property to the right side of that we can see, but it does not protrude out into it?
No,
You have
no,
that?
not
Okay.
at all,
Thank
not
you.
at all. And we've, knocked in on every neighbor's door, and they've signed, presented letters that it's not a problem for them.
You have these
All-
letters?
All the documentation,
in the
all the permitting, all the neighbors, all 4 of them, across the street and in the back parts of the property.
In that 11 inches that they do have setback, in my opinion, it's enough for the drip line, so that they're not cascading on their neighbors.
No drainage whatsoever on our
You're
neighbors.
saying it won't intrude on next door?
That's correct. With the
Okay.
drip line,
Okay.
So with a special needs situation, would that fit into the category of a disability kind of a thing?
Definitely,
You know, ADA
definitely.
has
Well,
reasonable.
we're not, it's, yes, absolutely, but the problem is that due to the medications, the sunlight is just not
You can't go in the sun.
at all.
Right, understand.
So the shade gives them opportunity to just go outside and enjoy some of the recreations. I mean, this is a homesteaded home. I'm 57 years old. We're retiring in this home. We're never moving. We've invested tons of money into it, and we're just,
This is where you are.
Yeah,
This is
well,
what-
it's unfortunate that,
and we've built it already. It cost us $11,000.
Well, you built it because your HOA told you it was okay
I
to do
know,
it.
and I never thought that
Yeah.
it would result
Yeah.
into this
Okay.
problem.
well, one approach might be, though, to go through a reasonable accommodation kind of evaluation, which we've got that process, and that might be a way to go here. I mean, I feel really badly about the HOA putting you in that kind of a position. Even the best well-intended, unfortunately, make a mistake, and something like this,
This happens from time to time. with
really,
HOA.
really unfortunate.
I got a question for council. If they wanted to pursue this on a special needs basis, and tell me if I got this correct, what are the significant differences about that? If that were to be approved, the variance for that basis, what that would mean is that the variance will only be in effect and apply as long as that child was living there.
The
Or as
child,
long-
it's-
Well, yeah, the family.
it's an oldest child. It's
Okay, but
31 years
So
old.
what happens is,
It's
though,
never leaving.
if they don't live there
It's
anymore,
never-
or if you guys sell the house or move out.
They
that-
have to be removed.
This variance
Understand.
goes away. It doesn't convey.
It's
all
not
right?
a permanent.
So it's not a permanent, it won't be a property base, it'll be an individual base. Is that an accurate
Well,
way?
so with a land use variance, those do run with the land. So, variances are about unique circumstances and conditions with the property or the building, not the people in it. And you touched on an accurate point. The variance would remain on that property as long as that structure, as long as that house existed, those awnings can stay up regardless of who lives in there. The reasonable accommodation process is about the person, and it provides an opportunity to look at whatever our rules are, and it provides an opportunity to massage those rules in circumstances where somebody with a disability can't enjoy the property because of the disability, and it allows an opportunity to kind of tweak that to allow for the enjoyment by the person. And there is a process for that, and it's an administrative process that starts with the village manager's office. And depending on what happens there, it could end at a magistrate hearing, similar to a code enforcement proceeding. We use our code enforcement magistrate. If the relief that was sought was not granted at the administrative level, then there's a...
Why would we have to go that path? Couldn't the council have can we approve?
No, your reasonable accommodation
reasonable accommodation?
process that you adopted provides for this administrative
Okay.
process, and so no, that would not come to council.
Okay.
But that is the significant difference is, the reasonable accommodation process looks at the person, the zoning variance looks at the property.
I got it. So, all right, that brings me back to members and council. What are your...
One more thing,
Go ahead,
on that. There is mandated deadlines in that. When we get the application, we're required to respond to it within 30 days and give an answer
For that
request.
For that process to happen, they have to initiate that specific request?
Yes.
So what happens with what we have before us tonight, if that were the case?
Well, you could handle this a couple different ways. You could deny it and direct them to go to reasonable accommodation, or you could table this to some future date.
What's... Go ahead.
Well, I would just comment, because I mean, it's a difficult thing, as the attorney said. This is something that runs with the land, and I think probably everyone up here, me more than anyone, would be more sympathetic to your situation, because I have a disabled younger brother. But that's something that isn't in consideration here. I think what the village manager was getting at, I would, if, the accommodation route, to me, I would think would be the better choice, because what we say up here has nothing to bear on it, because as the attorney said, that goes through the magistrate process. But if that goes through and you're successful, then that should end it, correct?
Correct.
And if it's not successful and this is tabled, as the village manager said, then you could come back for us to make a final decision on this if...
Okay. Hold on a second. So I just want to, so what he said is correct, that we would retain the option if we table it, if that other approach didn't result in satisfaction for them, we could then go back to the original, what was submitted tonight and act on it?
You do have a complete application in front of you, and the applicant has the right to have that processed. If the applicant agreed to a postponement of a final decision on the variance, you could do that. We'd have to re-advertise the public hearing in the future after the reasonable accommodation process. But if you wanted to do that and the applicant agreed to that postponement to try the reasonable accommodation process, that is within the legal sandbox, yes.
Okay. Selena?
I actually would not like to go down that path, just because, in all honesty, it's not just one person in the household enjoying the shade, it is the entire family. And how is this any different than any other variance that comes to us in this sense? I mean, I don't like all the variances that we have coming up against us, and we have a whole sheet of them today. So how is this any different than any other structure that's been built that the family's been led down a path to think they were doing the correct thing? It didn't turn out right. Since I've been here, we've had like 4 or 5 of them already that we've approved. So I'd rather just look at it as this case and not about one member of the family, but as the situation itself.
So what I understand what you're saying is because I was going to bring up that point too, the mitigating circumstances that got them to this point was not of their own making.
They went.
Right. They
Go
ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I actually prefer this path that you went through the right way instead of just blindly building it and go like, oh, whoops, I didn't know I was doing this. So thank you very much for going through that process.
Not of their own making, and here we are tonight.
Right.
That issue, coupled with, and we got the documentation, all the surrounding properties have no issue with this.
No, we don't have the documentation. We don't have the document. They would have to fill out the reasonable accommodation.
No, I'm not talking
No,
about,
she's talking about
Talking
from the
about-
neighbors.
For tonight.
That said they don't have a
That is
problem
complete.
with
It is a complete application, yes.
We have all the
so that we don't have, the neighbors have, yeah, and we, as you mentioned before, we've had that in the past where, the surrounding neighbors are fine with it and is a situation that we're in the making of the applicant themselves. So for those mitigating issues, you're suggesting, let's follow the recommendation that we got, because we can accept the recommendation we got from P&Z and approve the application as submitted. That's, sums it up what you're suggesting? Yeah. Okay. What's the feeling about that, members?
I'm fine with that.
I can support what you said, Selena.
I make a recommendation to approve regular agenda item number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Diane, let the record show that the regular agenda item number, what number is this? One. Boy, it's a long night. Was approved 5-0. Okay?
Thank you, counsel.
Good luck.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We have to go now and file for permit
Tomorrow,
as soon as
we were
possible.
told,
Is that
right?
correct? And where does that take place?
You will file that building permit with the building department, and then once it's cycled through up to my department, it'll be a pretty easy turnaround for you guys. And then we'll get it back down to building, and I think that they have a scanning period, maybe, 3 days, Rob, something of that nature, and then they can get you the building permit.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
counsel.
I
We appreciate it.
Good luck.
Have a good
Okay.
evening.
All right. Regular agenda item number 2 is a public hearing to consider variance application number 19-0059, an application by Palm Pool and Spa, Inc., and a variance order VC 19-10. The applicant is seeking a variance to allow a 18.18-foot rear deck setback in lieu of the required 13-foot, I'm sorry, not 18, it's 8.18 foot, right? Where in lieu of the required 13-foot rear yard pool setback, as required by section 26-62 sub D. The address of the property is on a confidential record. Now, this is a quasi-judicial process, so you have to swear in. Oops.
Yeah, I'm here.
Who are we? Are you testifying on this one?
If I answer any questions.
Okay. Swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony for this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Ex parte disclosures?
None.
Okay, then we can proceed.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Mayor. The applicant, this is a confidential record, so you'll notice in my presentation, it says really not any reference to any geographic location or aerials.
Why is it confidential? I'm just curious.
Public record
just-
exception.
Right. The
It meets the
occupant.
exception requirement. Got it. Okay.
The applicant is requesting a variance to allow for an 8.18-foot rear yard setback in lieu of the required 13-foot rear yard setback for a swimming pool. The applicant is seeking a 4.82-foot variance to the rear setback requirements as established in Code Section 2662D. Village Code requires, our Village Code Section 2632F6 allows for Village Council to grant variances to the code. If anybody would like me to read through these again, raise your hand. Seeing none.
Now that James wanted to hurry up.
Yeah, now, yeah.
The applicant does, or the village staff does not support the applicant's variance request because staff contends that the granting of the variance could confer the applicant privileges denied to other residents in similar circumstances. Although this property is not located with, it's not located with any planned unit development, reduced setbacks from the code requirement of 13 feet have been granted as part of PUD approvals in the past. For example, the rear setbacks for Anthony Groves PUD and Nautical Lakes PUD have been reduced to 8 feet or less. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the application on September 24, 2019 and recommended approval by a vote of 3-2. And the applicant has stated in its application, and correct me if I'm wrong, they would like to have a 10-foot wide swimming pool, where swimming pools are typically 15 feet. So with the criteria of it's the smallest variance and still allow him to have a pool, he's trying to accommodate that with a 10-foot
Smaller pool.
with a smaller pool, correct? And again, staff is recommending denial based on our criteria and our code. And the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this application as on September 24th and recommended approval by a vote of 3-2. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Do you know what the dissenting reasons were? No? I'm getting you tonight, huh?
Right.
A resident showed up and complained and said over the past, he had tried one, he lives in the neighborhood, and the council said no. And that's been consistent. So he said, this new applicant shouldn't get it because, as Selena said, it's granted in the past, it's been denied in the past, so he said we should deny it.
When you say
Just one of the neighbors showed up.
he's not an adjacent neighbor, he's just a neighbor.
Just someone in the community from what the,
Because he
that was
didn't get it.
denied.
Okay.
And just go back to your question, Mayor. Whenever they give us a agreed upon statement to bring to council, that's when we will come with those reasonings.
Okay.
If I try to surmise
I get it.
their discussion, I'm not going to be right 100% of the time, and I may upset somebody.
We get the minutes of the meeting too, so,
All right.
okay. Would the applicant like to comment?
So I'm 30 years old. I've lived in the village. Oh, Zachary Burke. Okay.
Not yet.
So I'm 30 years old. I've lived in the village for 30 years. I've been raised here. My parents have been here for 40 plus years. I grew up here. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school. I took my wife away from North Palm Beach and brought her to the village of Royal Palm, and this is where we want to live and raise our kids. So we bought a house 5 years ago, and it was our dream home, just minus a pool. And when we went in to look at it, we went out back, and you can see it's plenty of enough room, we thought, for a pool, and I was unaware of any setback requirements. So fast forward, we have a 2-year-old now, and we started swimming with him, and for quality of life, you know, he's loves swimming, and that's all he wants to do, and we're grateful to build a pool. We are going smaller than normal for a pool, but anything is better than none for us.
The pool, has it been built already? It's not built
No,
yet,
no.
right? Okay, so this is why the name of the builders that are doing this, that's why they were stated here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. I do not have any comment cards. Oh, God, I went to the wrong one. Hold on a second. I do not have any comment cards for agenda item R2, but if anyone would like to comment from the public, now would be the time. Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to close public comments for agenda item R2. Take further comments from members on council. Start with Selena.
I just have a question, and Bradford can answer this for me. So on the photo that you have here, the image, it's the proposed pool is there, and but then you have a proposed pool deck.
Right.
So the deck is going to the property line? And is that the concrete slab, is that like the
I believe the pool deck does not go completely to the property line. There's, I think, maybe a foot.
Correct.
To allow for grass and, again, to not convey water onto the neighbor's property. And that pool deck does not require a setback.
Okay, and it is an in-ground pool then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do we have documentation from the surrounding neighbors that they're okay with this?
With this application, we didn't receive any letters from...
I have a letter. I spoke to my neighbors, and I actually got a letter from a representative from my HOA that knows my family, knows the kid, and said that they would, you know, love to see us be able to build a pool. And it's our yard is fully fenced in, so it's not, you know, no one's going to see the pool.
It's enclosed?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You said you got a letter from the HOA, but do you have letters from your neighbors?
I have one letter from the neighbor. We've been going back and forth.
Can you want to make those available?
Yes, sir.
For the file? Okay. All right, I'm looking for comments from council. Bradford, you mentioned earlier about other places that had a different, how is that relevant to this conversation?
Well, I wanted to provide that information to council to give you an idea of, our code is very stringent and it applies to all properties, but there were other residential neighborhoods where the developer said, listen, we're going to provide these size homes. on these size lots. With the code the way that it is written today, within this PUD and the regulations, we would like to ask for some leniency or smaller setbacks for pools for these lots.
Okay.
And as part of the PUD process, you're able to vary those property development regulations upon approval by council.
This lot fits that construct.
It fits the construct in that it's a very shallow backyard.
Okay.
And with these PUDs where they have a smaller setback for their pools, shallower backyard.
Okay.
Yes. That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Comments? Thoughts? Someone want to make a motion? Okay, go ahead.
Just for housekeeping, I wanted just the record to include the two letters.
Yes.
We have a letter dated October 17th, handwritten, and a typewritten letter dated October 16th. Those, we'll call those respondent or applicants exhibits 1 and 2 for tonight's hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Just like to make one point. On the setbacks on this is a pool, in-ground pool, at grade, in a completely fenced-in area, won't even be seen by the neighbors if the variance is granted. What would happen, though, if there's an intent to put a screen enclosure on this, that will be a problem in the future because our setback for the screen enclosure would be 10 feet, and you wouldn't be able to meet that and cover this pool. And then you would be getting into the visual aspects of why you have
So now,
setbacks.
yeah, it's in.
Correct.
No intent to cover the pool with a screen.
You're on record.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for bringing it up. Go ahead.
Maybe we could put a condition on the approval.
Can we do that?
You can put reasonably related conditions of approval on a variance
It
approval.
says here,
yes.
you approve the setbacks,
Variance,
but
but with no
screen
screen
enclosure.
enclosure.
Yes, sir.
You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's nice.
All right, so having said that, who wants to put a motion together that does that for us?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item R2 with the special condition that no pool enclosure be included or erected.
Can you repeat that middle part?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R2 was approved 4-0.
Thank you, Council.
Good luck. Okay, agenda item R3 is also a public hearing to consider a variance, application number 19-046. An application by Randall Ives in a variance order VC 19-08. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 26-57 for a shed to allow for a side yard setback of 4.9 feet in lieu of 7.5 feet side setback as required by code for a property located at 10627 Misty Lane. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so we have to have folks sworn in.
Swear affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And council ex parte disclosures?
None.
Okay. Any others? All right. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay. Graphic.
Here we go. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 2657 for a shed to allow for a side setback of 4.9 feet in lieu of the 7.5-foot setback as required by code. The applicant asserts that the shed is to be located in the proposed location in order to allow access to the neighborhood watch golf cart, which will be stored within the proposed shed. The address where the golf cart will be stored is neighborhood watch captain's home, and it has been stated that other watch members will use the golf cart also. The proposed location is the most convenient location and will cause the least disturbance for the owners of the property when other watch member needs to have access to the golf cart. The applicant further asserts that this is the minimum variance which will allow reasonable access and safety for the neighborhood watch's golf cart. Here again is the criteria. Staff is not in support of this variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist. Condition is the result of the actions of the applicant, and it will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands, and the literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant the rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the application on September 24th, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 4-1. And again, staff is recommending denial, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, so if I ask you about the one abstention, you don't know, right?
If I would get it, like I
I'm
said,
just
I
being
would
consistent, that's all.
completely get it wrong and insult them.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make comments?
I just want to say that, you know, I'm sorry, my name's Randall Ives. I live at 10627 Misty Lane in Royal Palm Beach. I started Endeavor 3 years ago in my neighborhood to start a neighborhood crime watch program, and we've had a few obstacles, and one of them was not being able to. It's a large community, and you know it's hard on one person, but it takes a village. But I've tried to accommodate by, you know, walking, riding, and doing other things to cover the neighborhood, and it just hasn't been efficient. So we asked that we could purchase a golf cart, and with an investment like that, I don't want it outside. I don't want it to you know, fade away in the weather. So I did purchase a shed and put it in, and sorry, I did it without permission. I did. It's
okay.
True. It's true. But it follows all hurricane regulations. It's a regular shed. So it's going to be used just to store the golf cart and some batteries and charging equipment, and that's about it. We chose this location only because on the other side we do have plans for a pool. We do plan to stay here. Again, kids are in high school, so.
You're not going to need a variance for the pool.
I shouldn't. We already have the plans. It seems to be able to work in fine. So, but again, that's down the road. That's not something that is going to happen in the next year, but it is something that would happen. So that's where we did place it. So.
Okay. I do not have any public comment cards on agenda item R3, but if anyone from the public would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment for agenda item R3 and opening up for comments from council. Go ahead, Selena.
All right, so a couple of things is on the diagram that Bradford showed, there's already another shed on the property. And then when you look at the photograph of the shed that you put in, so flip back one, Brad, please, thanks. So is the first shed to the left of that? That is right there, and there isn't any room to store it in there because you can't, because it's a door instead of the barn gate.
It is a door, and
okay. And then I guess
because of its size, I apologize,
No, go
but because of the size, I mean, there's nothing to say that we couldn't put a rolling door on the front of the other shed. But the problem is because it's 13 feet.
Right.
I had a 13-foot variance that I had to follow, so that shed puts it in back of my home, so
Okay.
I don't have access to it.
Okay, and then I think when we were talking about it before my concern was because the shed is for the cart for the neighborhood watch group, and because you're the captain. So if any of that changes, what happens to the shed? Where's the golf cart go? Are you always going to store the golf cart, or is the cart going to go with
The car would go with me. It's my purchase.
It is your
so.
cart. Okay, so if you were no longer the captain of the neighborhood watch, then what happens to the golf cart and the shed?
Well, if that was the case, and if that was the reason that it would be approved, then I would agree in writing to remove it.
All right, so it would be a condition that would be included. Keith, if we were to approve it.
I mean, the applicant has voluntarily agreed to that, but, you know, as we discussed in the first variance, typically variances run with the land, so the applicant can certainly agree to that, but I don't know that we would be able to legally force that hand at the end of the day.
Really?
Because of, well, again, zoning variances by law run with the land. If
Okay.
you feel that they're entitled to have the variance,
Well, at least okay, at minimum, though, we'd have that as part of the record, that such an agreement was made. I think, who was next? Who was?
I think
Who was doing
I
that?
was.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where with the first one, we could not tie it to the fact that the child was living there. As the attorney said, this is something that runs with the land. So if, you know, this structure is going to be entitled to stay there. I don't think we can legally, as the attorney said, put a condition on, well, if you're not the watch commander anymore, then it's got to go. That's not going to fly, and if we went to court on it, the village would lose. So I don't think that's a viable option.
We don't lose when we go to court.
We would lose on this one, I'm pretty sure.
wouldn't go to court.
Yes, exactly. We wouldn't go to court because we'd let him have his shed, and then he could put whatever in the shed that he wanted
That makes
because.
my statement true then.
Yeah, that's the issue. And I guess my concern with it, of course, you know, I support the neighborhood watch and everything like that, but this is, I mean, that being aside, it's not the reason why it's there, it's the fact that it is there. And I definitely, it doesn't, in my opinion, meet the criteria for a variance, and that's just my thought.
Jeff?
What do the neighbors think about it? Well, I sent a radiance letter out 300 feet. I had about 35 neighbors come to me, most of which had no idea who I was or where the shed was or what the variance was. But once I spoke to them, I had absolutely no ill feedback at all. Everybody was, especially my immediate neighbors. I mean, they know what's going on, and they've supported it from the beginning.
The property is completely enclosed?
I'm sorry?
The property is enclosed?
Yes, I have a privacy fence around the entire property.
Yeah. All right.
I have an RV that's parked in front of that, so it blocks the view from the street, so.
You have an RV too?
I do.
Does that meet the setback requirements?
I have a boat, but I don't store it there, but yes, it does. Yes, it does, Mayor.
This plot is thickening, I don't know.
It is.
Okay. All right, you have anything else?
So the consideration for the height and the setback is the neighbor's ability to maintain some line of sight so that they're not they're not prevented from benefiting from what they had a right to expect and that kind of thing. And
Right.
so that's what we're dealing with here, and that's one of the reasons why I asked him, how do the neighbors feel about it?
Well, I did have neighbors that came as well and spoke on my behalf, but.
At planning and zoning?
Yes,
Planning and zoning?
yes, sir. Yes, counsel.
Do you have anything in writing from
I
them?
don't. I'm sure I could obtain that.
But it's, I was gonna say, it's documented in the P and Z meeting, the testimony from the neighbors, is that good enough?
I mean, that hearing would be part of the record, so.
It is
whatever.
part of the record, but he's saying we have testimony on record from them, right? That-
Yeah, if you do.
Yeah, and he is under oath, so he's
It's
not
true.
going to.
Okay. Is that okay?
Right.
And we have in the past granted variances
Yeah.
that weren't objectionable to the neighbors, and they asserted that it wasn't, so
Yeah.
it's my consideration on this.
Okay, if no further comments or questions from council, then I would ask,
Yeah,
is there a motion to accept the recommendation from P and Z of approval?
I'll just say, I don't have a problem making the motion. I'm just, would prefer if we went through the proper process instead of building it first and then coming in and saying,
I
that's my
understand.
only thing.
Yeah, no, I
But-
get it.
Yeah, but I'll make a motion to approve of regular agenda item number 3.
For a year, sir. I've been getting it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay. All right, Diane, please let the record show that the item, agenda item, number on here.
R3.
R3 was approved by a vote of 3-1. Okay? Good luck with
Counsel,
your
I
neighborhood
appreciate
watch,
it.
and
Thank you very
hope
much.
you stay involved with that.
I did, for a long time.
Okay, don't come back now about the pool.
And thank you for doing that too. It's a really big help, and it helps the entire community. We appreciate it.
Yeah, he's done a great job with that.
Okay. All right, regular agenda item number 4 is a public hearing to consider an application, 19-0087, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios, and approval of ordinance number 996. The applicant is seeking the rezoning of 2 tracts of land totaling approximately 13.144 acres from Palm Beach County's agricultural residential to zoning district to the Village of Royal Palm Beach's public ownership zoning district, located on the south side of the south side of Southern Boulevard, at approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7. This is also a quasi-judicial hearing, so we need to have everyone sworn in.
Who's testifying on this one? Do you swear affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and
Where's the
nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I doubt there were, but were there any ex parte discussions on this ordinance?
Nope.
All right, and may I go ahead and read it by title? Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 996, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 2 parcels of land comprising a total of 13.144 plus or minus acres, more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7/US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties, Pod 8. Providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of PO public ownership. Providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach will be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, and effective date and for other purposes.
You practiced that?
He's skilled. He's got
17
skills.
years I've been practicing.
No, the fastest was,
Trila.
what was her name?
Trila.
No. White.
Trila. Right.
She's faster than him.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was fast.
I'm sorry. Little sidebar.
Okay. As you stated, the applicant is requesting a rezoning of this property to the Royal Palm Beaches Public Ownership Zoning District. The site has several single-family large lot tracts. The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the goal is for Pod 8 to be the receiving area for the recreation obligations for Pod 2, 3, and 4, and total approximately 10.7 acres. The remaining areas are within the Florida Power and Light easement, and reviewing the proposed rezoning the parcels of the village's public ownership zoning district. Village staff considered compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistency with the village's comprehensive planning, performance with the public ownership zoning district development standards in section 2691. Staff also considered Pod 8 in relation to the overall master plan for this area. The local planning agency considered this application on September 24th, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of this application. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bradford. I guess the applicant is not here?
No, sir.
Okay. I guess it's pretty straightforward. I have no comment card submitted. I do have a comment card submitted, agenda item R4. Donna Mays, come on down.
Been waiting so patiently all night.
Not here for an argument. Donna Mays, 112 Newberry Lane. I'm representing Victoria Grove HOA. We don't have a problem with it. We just understand that it's going to be a park. The park is going to be very close to 2 borders of our property. So we were just hoping when the planning of the park was coming, and I don't even know if this is the right time to talk about it, but we were suggested that I should at least come to express that.
Absolutely.
That the lighting kind of wasn't in the homeowner's situation.
Gotcha.
I really don't think that the property could access from any of our side properties because of the way it's situated, but we just wanted to state that there would be no entrance from the park from affecting the property. The other thing is, Mr. Tuttle has explained basically to us through his representatives that sort of the entertainment part of it would always stay towards the restaurants and things like that, so we would hope there would be no concerts or loud music, because it is very, very close.
Concerts in that park?
I don't know what the plans are, Mayor. I don't.
That's not the plans. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just here to just kind of express and just, it's not an argument. We just,
No.
we're trying to be a good neighbor. And
listen.
we have been. We've been in constant negotiations with
We
them.
appreciate you're coming to share some, let us know some thoughts and things that
Right.
we need to look at.
And I guess
yeah.
the only other thing is, right now the whole area is woods, some of it.
Yeah.
So we were hoping maybe we could keep some of that boundary woods around it and maybe keep the facilities to like the northwest corner instead of the southwest corner.
That's where it backs up towards your
Yeah, it backs
development?
up to two parts of our community.
Okay.
It would back up. So, again, we understand that the park is coming. We've explained it to our homeowners.
Okay.
We just wanted to see that we could just be thought of when the plans were coming for the park.
Now, are you with the HOA?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, that's all. Like I said, we've been in constant communication with them, and, we're pretty much okay with everything that's going on. They suggested just come and
No.
say something. I didn't know if tonight was the right night, but
Good. No?
Anytime.
that's probably all we really have,
You got any questions, Ray?
Well, not more of comments than questions. The way this is working is he's got a requirement of his development to dedicate it, and the site, when he gives it to us, when he does the final plat, will be, well, after he constructs the site, it'll be kind of level site, and we'll have it seeded and mulched. The village is going to take the responsibility of building this park. We do collect impact fees from the community for that infrastructure. And we currently have it in the 5th year of the 5-year plan from today, so 5 years out from now.
Yeah.
We will go through a public process and want to get the input from Victoria Groves and residents of Royal Palm Beach, and build something that you'll be proud of and that you want.
Right. That's all. Like I said, we've been in touch with them, and they just suggested maybe we should just
Okay,
come.
good.
We're here, and that's it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Just, before I get to you, one question.
Thank you.
This property is going to be conveyed to the village, but it's not going to be raw. Is there some prep work they have to do before they convey it to? I want that on the record.
Yes, in a subdivision, and that's what the subdivision requires. The subdivision requires that you provide transportation, water, sewer, and drainage. The drainage will consist of providing a connection from the drainage system on the power lines, I think is where he's proposing it, that will go to this site that we'll be able to connect to and drain this property to. There will be, the site will have to be designed, and the drainage that we're connecting to will have to be designed for up to 50% impervious, and obviously we'll have to meet all the FEMA rules on getting any structures or anything out of the floodplain. So there'll be some minimal amount of rough grading that will be necessary at the platting stage. And then he'll dedicate it to us, and we'll accept it.
They have to do the rough grading?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we'll require him to put it in a position where it can be mowed with a large mower, so we keep it in compliance. And when we start that process when we start having money in the budget for building it, we will absolutely site plan it and get the input, and probably have some charrettes,
Send out notifications.
with the neighborhood. And
Send notifications out to you.
That's the only reason why I came, is because of that notification.
Okay, okay.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want a clarification that this park would be similar to the parks that we have in our other subdivisions, not like a Commons Park or a Veterans Park. When she was, I think one of the concern was the noise factor and things like that, but we're not putting an amphitheater in there.
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know what we're putting in there right now. I mean, we will go for grants for the thing, and we will get the input from the community.
That leaves it open, no? Okay. All right, any other comments from members on council? Okay, I don't have any other comment cards on agenda item R4, but if anyone in the public would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment for agenda item R4. Unless there are further comments from members on council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item number R4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R4 was approved 4-0. Agenda item R5 is a public hearing for first reading and approval of ordinance number 997, amending Chapter 26, zoning, at Section 26-40, minor amendments to previously approved site plans in order to increase the percentage of previously approved landscaping materials, spaces that may be substituted for different species through the minor site plan modification. So we're doing minor stuff and we have species here, right? This is you?
May I read the title?
Go ahead,
Mayor?
yeah.
Thank you. This is Ordinance 997, Ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 26 zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Royal Palm Beach at Article 3 Administration and Procedures, Section 26-40, minor amendments to previously approved site plans in order to increase the percentage of previously approved landscape material species that may be substituted for different species through the minor site plan modification process, providing that each and every other section, subsection in Chapter 26 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing complex clause severability clause authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Don't try to slow down now.
Well said.
Okay, take a breath. Good.
So we wanted to propose this code amendment because currently our code only allows for a minor site plan modification to be done by a property owner when less than 10% of the species are changing. And some of these sites, you know, that for a lot of these smaller sites, they would be coming to council for major site plan modification in order to allow for a gumbo limbo rather than an oak tree. So what we wanted to do is to help facilitate the processing of these types of applications and raising that bar from 10% to 20%. And with our urban forester on board, who I've got a trained eye, they've got a schooled eye in landscape architecture. And so what we're really looking for is when we approve these minor site plan modifications for landscaping, is the species change, is that reasonable? And is it now going to grow in that place? Because a lot of times it's the wrong plant in that place. And no diminishing of the quality of the landscape architecture of the site. And so that's what we want to accomplish with this.
So, okay, if I understood what you just said, is right now, staff has the leeway to approve up to a 10%
Correct.
impact?
Yes, sir.
So we're asking to elevate that to
Right.
20% to give staff more leeway, more autonomy, or more flexibility?
Correct.
The term streetscape, is that a technical term? I mean,
That's the next one.
by approving this.
Streetscape's next one.
Oh, I'm one ahead. I'm
5
sorry.
is, 5 is the plan stuff.
That's
You're
Paul.
really trying to catch me on guard
Okay,
tonight.
sorry.
I'm guard.
Make sure he's awake.
I retract that question.
Keep that thought.
Streetscape's been on my mind all night.
Because of the TPA.
Something like that, yeah. I'm sorry, Bradford, go ahead.
So that streetscape is Paul on the
Okay.
next agenda.
That's it? You
That's
have
it,
anything else?
right? We're just asking for an
Okay.
increase to 20%.
I have no comment cards for agenda item R5 from the public, but if anyone from the public would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, we're going to close public comment on agenda item R5. I think you wanted to say something? We'll make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve regular agenda item number 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With no opposed, Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R5 was approved, 4-0. Okay, now to agenda item R6, which is an adoption of a resolution number 19-32, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, establishing the Village of Royal Palm Beach streetscape and designating the first program area, the Sparrow Drive streetscape area, for inclusion in the overall streetscape program. Okay, how many times are we going to say that? Providing an effective date and for other purposes. Do you have to?
You just did it.
Okay. Paul, educate us. What are we doing here?
And you'll have to excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice.
Out there, streetscape, that's why.
The proposed streetscape program roads, those are roads that the village has maintenance responsibilities on. That's either, if you're looking at that map there, the roads that are shown in more of the pink color are DOT roads we do maintenance on. It's not telling you the limits of maintenance we do, but just that we do maintenance on it. We maintain landscaping on State Road 7, State Road 80. The blue roads there are Palm Beach County roads. We do landscaping through interlocal agreement with the county on those 2 roads.
Is that Okeechobee, the blue one?
Okeechobee and Crestwood Boulevard south of Okeechobee.
So we do maintain those roads within the city limits?
Within the limits of the village, yes, sir.
Okay.
The landscaping, not the road itself.
Not the road, I'm
just
sorry,
the
the
landscaping.
Yeah.
And then the orange color there is primarily Madison Green. That's Crestwood Boulevard through Madison Green. That is maintained by the HOA, but it is a village-owned road. And the maintenance responsibility just shows who is responsible to maintain it. The owners there is shown who owns it. And we do want to note in here that the location of trees and shrubs within the streetscape program shall be approved by the village engineer. The resolution here before you would provide for the inclusion of Sparrow Drive from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to Crestwood Boulevard as part of the village's overall streetscape program. It would limit the maintenance in this corridor to the trees, to the trees only. Property owners would still be required to maintain grass and other vegetation to the edge of pavement as they are now, but it also would include the hedge along Crestwood Middle School. And it also provides that the tree maintenance be in accordance with Chapter 15 of the Village Code of Ordinances. We have an estimated cost, annual cost for the tree maintenance to be between $7,500 and $10,000 for a one-time cut in the spring prior to hurricane season. We would, however, propose to provide an additional cut in the fall of this fiscal year if this addition of this road is approved. And the funds for these would be from the Public Works operating budget. And I'll entertain any questions.
Okay. Jeff, you had your light on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So, if I understand it, so we're going to institute a program that's going to be village-wide, and on situations where there may be a cluster of trees that currently individual owners they maintain them, but they could get rid of them, but we'd rather not see that happen, so we kind of take ownership for them? Is that?
Yes. Now, when we passed the new ordinance, what we did is we addressed street trees that are on public right-of-way. And we have a lot of trees that are in the public right-of-way between the sidewalk and curbs that we don't like. Our requirement for putting them in is that they be more than 5 feet away from anything above ground or below ground. Most people who are planting those trees are not checking for that, and they actually become a code violation. So we've kind of, when we did the landscape code, it was our goal to say those trees can come out, and we're not going to hold anybody back. We're not going to restrict them. We're not going to make them go through any permitting. Our preference is for them to be gone. But then, obviously, we had to address the ones we actually want in the right-of-way.
Which they could have gotten rid of.
Well, if it wasn't addressed, correct. And we never really had an official streetscape program. So when Sparrow came up as this is now a section that there's trees between the sidewalk and curb that some of these people would like to take out, our preference was not to take them out for the last 30 years.
Okay.
So it became then for us saying, okay, village, you have this, and put it at part of your streetscape program, assume the maintenance of these trees, or we would like to take them out, which I'm not too sure we could have said no based on our new ordinance. So we're bringing it to you to protect those trees on Sparrow Drive. We think it's worth the $7,500 to $1,000 or $10,000, and in doing that, the attorney wanted us to more formalize all of our other landscaped medians. You know, we do have agreements with DOT. We have agreements with the county on those, and then of course we have our own roadways like Royal Palm Beach Boulevard that have been designed and permitted. This is kind of really just formalizing all those previous agreements into one document. It says these are the areas that we're doing that, okay. And going forward, if you remember in the tree ordinance, if we create a tree fund, we'll most likely go forward with more of these in the future. Our goal, I think, was if we could get a tree either in the front yard of every home, a shade tree with the program, then we think we've succeeded.
As long as they don't wind up falling on the homes because of hurricanes.
Well, that's a risk when you have trees. It does happen. I've got some pine trees that have been saved when Saratoga Pines was constructed that are 50 feet tall, 10 feet from my home, but I like having them, and they provide all the mulch I need, and that's the risk.
Okay. You want to add anything else, Paul?
I do not.
No? Okay. I do not have any comment cards on agenda item R6, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Come on up.
Catherine Lang, 100 Viscay Avenue. I'm actually a school guard, and I actually worked right there in front of Crestwood Middle School. And when they made the improvements to the bridge there on Sparrow, they put in those palm trees and the low-lying bushes. They're right in front of Crestwood Middle School. And it actually makes it very difficult when you're on either Park Avenue or if you're pulling out of the rec center to actually see down the street to where you can actually see oncoming traffic. What they put in, the palm trees were actually kind of nice. They do provide a little bit of shade, but the low-lying bushes that they put in just completely block your view when you're driving down that road or trying to pull out of either the school or Park Avenue or the rec center. It makes it kind of hard to see oncoming traffic when you're looking in that direction. So,
Have we had any incidents that you know of as a result of that?
not that I know of. It just makes it kind of hard
It
to.
does. Looks like an accident ready to happen.
And
Yeah.
it frustrates parents who are dropping off children from there trying to get out.
Can we take a look at that, Ray?
And we have looked at that, and obviously landscaping in the right-of-ways does pose that. We do keep it clear based on the clear distances, site distances that DOT has established for us. So based on the speed of the road and the location of and where the car stops, we do, but they do have to be trimmed to maintain that site distance. That is.
So maybe we
true.
need maybe it's a trimming thing that needs to be done. This
Or if we're not keeping up on the trimming, we're going to have to relocate them.
This is we have a couple of places where I've observed the same thing, where it's like, the landscaping there blocks, so we want to we should err on the side of safety. So it's been noted. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, even with the kids going down the sidewalks with their bikes and
with the
everything,
bikes,
it
yeah.
kind of blocks them
Sure.
from being seen also.
Okay.
So,
Good.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your input. Appreciate it. Anyone else would like to comment on agenda item R6? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment on agenda item R6. Open up for any further comments from members on council. If there are none, we'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item R6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R6 was approved 4-0. No further business before the council this evening. I thank you all for your participation, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.